Hi, and welcome to the Leader's Identity Guide. I'm going to explore the foundations you need to be an exceptional leader. And they may surprise you because it's not skills, it's not techniques, it's not models or templates, it's identity. You've been set up to fail because of the identity that was established in your first leadership role. And I'm going to outline how it's happened and, more importantly, what you can do about it. That might sound a bit dramatic, but the truth is it's happening to every leader in every industry across the globe. Capable, smart, well-intentioned people are being ingrained with a leadership identity that will fail them in later leadership roles. You know the type of people I'm talking about. You've worked for them. They micromanage their people and work crazy hours because they control everything. I'm going to assume you are here because you want to be a different type of leader. So let me be clear. Learning a few leadership skills like communication or coaching or dealing with difficult people won't make any difference if you have the wrong identity as a leader. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. My name is Ross Judd and I'm the Leader's Identity Guide, and I've been guiding people all my life, from taking groups into the outdoors when I was young to spending the last 30 or 40 years guiding leaders, teams and cultures. Over that time, it has become clear that skills-based leadership training doesn't fix leadership problems. Shifting identity does. What you're about to learn is some of the best work I've ever done with leaders. If you give it the time and genuinely reflect on it, you can change your experience as a leader. This is the free version of an 8 to 10 week coaching module that is available at teamfocusplus.com. It's called Leadership Foundations. That module coaches you through the steps I'm about to outline for you. Now, if you stick with me, you'll walk away with a clear picture of how your early leadership roles have shaped your identity in a way that's set you up to fail. You'll walk away with a simple way to rethink your purpose as a leader in your current role, and a powerful model to start changing how you think, behave, and lead in any leadership role. So if you're ready to take the next step, let's go. To talk about how you've been set up to fail, I first need to talk about identity level change. I use a tool I designed called the Identity Builder. I've put it into an iceberg to convey the idea of going deeper and recognizing the things that live below the surface that drive behavior. We'll work through the levels and explore whether they create long-term, sustained change. And I'm going to use the age-old problem of a child's messy bedroom as an example. Now, the main thing to remember is that if you change an item above the surface, it has little to no impact on the items below the surface. For example, if you change the outcome by tidying the room, you will have no impact on their behavior or anything below the surface. And as a result, you won't see sustained and permanent change. In fact, that room will probably be messy as soon as they walk back into it. Now, you might do a little better if you go a bit deeper and focus on the child's behavior, but not unless you stay there until it becomes a habit, which takes 17 to 21 days of repetition. If you go a bit deeper, you might have more impact if you go below the surface and work on their beliefs. If the child starts to think that a clean room is important and necessary, you might get a different outcome. And that brings us to the next level, which is identity. On the model, you can see this is called character values, and I'll explain why a little later. This is the identity level, and it changes everything above it. Would the child's mindset, behavior, and outcome change if you ask them a question like, what does a messy room say about you as a person? If they link the state of their room to their identity, then we are more likely to see a sustained change. The deepest and final level is to build a compelling purpose for a clean room. Could we link it to their health and well-being or their mental health? Now, most people instinctively understand this idea of going deeper. It's easy to see how the deeper levels drive the way you think, your behavior, and the outcomes that you achieve. We're going to use this model later to help build the identity you need to be an exceptional leader in your current role. And that will start with your purpose. But more about that in a couple of minutes. First, a word of caution. When people see a model like this, they tend to apply it to their whole life, meaning what's my life purpose or what's my greater purpose as a person? It's much easier and, in my opinion, much more effective to apply it to a specific context, like being a leader. So as we continue, please focus on your purpose and identity as a leader. So now we understand what we mean by identity level. Let's talk about how your career as a leader unfolds and how that process sets you up to fail. To do that, I'm going to use this diagram, which explores the transitions you will go through in your leadership career. I call it leadership in context because leadership is a contextual activity, meaning it will change depending on the situation and depending on your role. The transition across the bottom axis is all about how you achieve. Throughout your career, you will transition from being a technical expert that achieves through your own effort to being a people expert that achieves through other people's effort. It's quite a change, and it happens gradually as you move into different roles. The transition on the side axis is from a day-to-day to a strategic focus. When you put the two together, your leadership journey will look something like this. Now, you were set up to fail as a leader because you started working for a company by offering them a technical skill. Might have been accounting or engineering or operations or nursing or IT or whatever it was. If you didn't have a skill, you simply offered labor. The point is that you were paid and rewarded for what you delivered by applying whatever skill you offered that organization. After a while, you were promoted into a team leader or a leading hand or some kind of frontline leadership role. You were promoted because you were the best at the job and asked to make everyone else as good as you. You assigned tasks, you checked quality, you taught people what to do, you corrected their mistakes, you solved their problems and kept things moving towards short-term targets. In other words, you were a highly technical micromanager that instructed, directed and controlled other operators. People told you that you were being a good leader, and as a result, the concept of leadership was linked to those behaviors. Your unconscious built beliefs about leadership like, a good leader has to be better than everybody else, or a good leader tells everybody what to do and controls what they are doing, or I'm a good leader because I'm the expert, or they need me, or I have to be indispensable, and a whole bunch of beliefs get built. So just reflect for a minute. Have you ever thought, if you want something done properly, do it yourself? That's a micromanager's mindset. Now, the hard part is that your identity as a leader became attached to your technical expertise and your ability to control people and the work that they produced. And that's the trap, because as you keep progressing in your leadership career, the game changes, and you will need different beliefs and behaviors to be successful. But you're not going to develop them unless that original identity changes. The real challenge is that identity is hard to change because it lives below the surface at the unconscious level, and as a result, you defend it. Now, I know this from running leadership development workshops for over 30 years. Anytime I've said something that challenged someone's identity, they arced up and defended themselves. It's understandable. People protect their identity. But the weird thing is, even if it's no longer supporting their success, because it's held at a deep and unconscious level. That's what I mean when I say that you are set up to fail. And that's why you need a leader's identity guide. So let's move on to the solution. I'm going to show you how to set the right identity for your current role and each leadership role that you move into. It starts by defining your purpose as a leader. And for that, I use the Purposeful Role Balance tool. This uses the same two axes, but they've been moved to create a 4-quadrant model. Each quadrant represents a different part of your role. Now, all you have to do is think about your purpose as a leader in each quadrant. This will help you balance your role. So what is your purpose from a strategic technical perspective? What is your purpose from a strategic people perspective? What is your purpose from a day-to-day and technical perspective? And what is your purpose from a day-to-day and people perspective? When you sit down and really think about that, you stop seeing yourself as a super operator and start seeing yourself as a leader that balances the right activities across the quadrants. You will also see where you are over-investing, which is usually in the day-to-day technical activities, and where you are under-investing, which is usually in the strategic people activities. So correcting that imbalance is how you get your life back. I encourage you to think through each quadrant and then try and come up with a simple statement or a guiding principle or something that captures your purpose as a leader that you can then put in the middle. Now, whatever you come up with will become the anchor for changing your identity as a leader. Which brings us to the final step, building your identity you will need to be successful as a leader in your current role. We do this by reprogramming your unconscious priorities, because identity lives at the deeper unconscious level. We do that with the model you've already seen called the Identity Builder. It's designed to get you thinking about your values or your priorities at each level, and it's easier than you think. You just take the purpose statement that you've developed and think about what you will need at each level of the iceberg. Now, the reason we work with values is because your unconscious priorities are based on values. So, for example, safety comes first. It has the most value. If your safety is threatened, then your unconscious will shut out all other distractions until that issue is resolved. You won't be able to think about anything else. Now, your unconscious is really good at prioritizing. So when you establish clear values, you are working with your unconscious in a natural and effective way. So I'm going to go through this from top to bottom, but you can do it in any order that you like. So from the top, what outcomes do you need to prioritize to achieve your purpose as a leader? Next, what behaviors will you need to prioritize or value the most? Next, what mindsets or beliefs? What do you need to think to be successful in your role as a leader, in your current leadership role? Next, what character traits will define the type of person you need to be to achieve your purpose as a leader? And then finally, why? Why does this matter to you? What is the greater purpose that you want to achieve? Now, as you work with these different levels, you'll start to feel a shift because the integration of all the levels will create the identity you need to support a new way of leading. Most leadership programs work at the behavior level. They teach you skills, they give you templates, but you're not going to apply them unless your identity shifts. This is where real change happens. It's not tips, it's not tricks. You are deciding for yourself what identity you will need to be successful as a leader in your current role. So here's the summary. These are the steps you need to take to be successful as a leader in your role. They're captured here. So recognize your current identity and how you've been set up to fail, which I've explained using the Leadership in Context model. Establish your purpose as a leader in your current role using the Purposeful Role Balance tool. Then build your identity that you will need to be successful as a leader in that role using the Identity Builder iceberg. If you take the time to work through these steps, you can kickstart your leadership career and start achieving the things you've always dreamed of. If you want to be coached step by step through this process, then head over to teamfocusplus.com and check out the full Leader's Identity Guide. It provides much more detail and coaches you through each step. And if this video resonated and made sense, then please do me a favor and like and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel because that will help in a couple of ways. It will support the channel so that I can keep producing free videos that will support you, and it will help spread the word and keep improving leadership at a global level, which is something that we desperately need. You can also check out my other videos in this channel and at teamfocusplus.com. Leave a comment. I'd love to know which part of this hit home for you. And if you've made it this far, huge thanks. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.